For those of you that don't know, my name is Bruce Steeves. Some people like to call me Pastor Bruce. And I grew up in the St. John, New Brunswick area, more in an area called Fairvale, which later became Rossay. But anyway, that's where we grew up. And literally the furthest I moved until I was like 19 years old was like down the street. So grew up in that same little neighborhood. My parents are Christians. My sister's a believer in Jesus as well. We grew up going to church a lot of time, and went to Christian school. So interests and hobbies, really, sports, basketball is the big passion. I've always loved ball, still like to play. And yeah, as far as it goes now, I do enjoy reading. Strange fact about us is that my parents didn't allow us to have a TV till I was like 13 or 14. So I really did develop a love for reading. And yeah, The Hardy Boys was the book or the series of choice. Probably my favorite vacation ever is my mom and dad have often spoiled Amanda and I and our boys with some pretty cool trips. So which one was the favorite? I think the cruise that they took us on was really cool. Just being away, traveling that way for a week was amazing. Some cool snorkeling, hanging out with dolphins, and food like you wouldn't believe. It was a really great time. So on one of the vacations that Mom and Dad took us on, there was an incident. We were in New York City. We were staying at a hotel, and all of a sudden in the middle of the night, the fire alarm started going off in our hotel room. And we wake up pretty groggy and we're like, wow, we got to get out of here. So I'm hurrying the kids, and for some reason, I don't know, I was still pretty sleepy, so I was wearing my nighttime jammies, which was just my undies, and the only thing that I grabbed on the way out the door, instead of like pajama pants or anything like that, was my camera. And so we get out into the hall, and I've got my undies and camera case, and that's it, and the boys and Amanda are with me, and we realized that the alarm isn't going off anywhere else in the hotel, it was just in our room. And so we're sitting in the stairwell, and then we all realized that I didn't have a key to get back into the room. And so I had to go down to the front desk in the middle of the night with my undies and camera case and get a key to get back into our room. I think I really got serious about my faith in Jesus second year of university. I can remember there's a couple of different incidents that really sort of triggered that. First, just driving in my mom's car one night and realizing that life was just empty. It was, I was doing a lot of things that I thought would be fun, but really none of them were fulfilling. And I just realized, because of my Christian upbringing and the teaching that I had received at home and in the church, that my life was just, being lived for no good purpose. And it was there that I said to God, look, I'm sorry, my life is empty, and I want to make a change in that. And the second time was sort of followed that. It was God using some building blocks. Through a crazy series of events, I ended up going out to Whistler, British Columbia for winter and working on a ski lift. And I had determined that I was going to be living for the Lord. I'd given my life back to Christ. And so I'm out there, and it was a crazy environment to be really trying to grow in your faith. But I would try to be a witness and a testimony. And I remember one day in the lift hut that I worked in, there was always an electrician, a maintenance guy, and a couple of lift attendants, and I was a lift attendant. And this electrician said to me, he said, so Bruce, why don't you drink? Why don't you do drugs? Why don't you sleep around? And I said, well, that's what my parents taught me, and that's what they taught me at church. And he looked at me and he said, so you've been brainwashed. And I was like, no. And he said, so why don't you do those things? And the only answer I had to give him at that time was, well, because that's what my parents had taught me and that's what my church had taught me. And he goes, see, you've been brainwashed. And I remember going back to my apartment that night and talking to my dad, calling him up and just saying, Dad, what's this? How come I can't really have an answer? And he said, Bruce, it's really time that you personalize your faith and not just hang on to the coattails of our faith, but really make it your own. And so that was a pretty significant turning point in my faith walk for sure. There's a lot of crazy incidents in life that I could thank God for sure. Probably the one that I would say thank you for the most would be the time that Amanda said yes to my proposal. So yeah, I think that's the time that I would definitely thank God for the most. It's Colossians 2:13 and 14, and really that passage of scripture just talks about the fact that Christ has taken our record of debt and he's taken it from us and nailed it to the cross. And it's quite easy for me to focus on my failures and my faults and the things that I have done wrong and all the reasons that I shouldn't be, a child of God or really, be in this position that I'm in as a pastor. But, that verse is that go-to that when I remember all the things that I have done wrong, I also need to remember that God has taken that from me and He's nailed it to the cross of Jesus Christ, and I am forgiven for those things. One piece of advice that I guess I'd like to pass on to those kids that we serve at Reach, I guess is to realize that when adults come alongside of you to correct you, that they're not doing it to make your life miserable, to make your life no fun, but they're doing it because they really love you and care for you. I think probably if I had have heeded a lot more of the warnings that some adults gave me in life, I probably would have made better choices earlier. And so just remember that correction isn't always out of disappointment. It's often correction comes out of a love for you so that you enjoy a fuller life and the life that God intended you to live. Why is Jessie Smith such a good summer worker? Well, because she's game for anything. She does an incredible job at what she does. She brings so much laughter to the church building, and because her dad pays me $500 every summer that she gets to work here. See you guys. Really, really enjoy the testimony. By the way, Scott has never paid me a penny for Jessie to work here. We just really enjoy working here, and she does an awesome job. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.